Welcome to another evening of frank conversation. Welcome to Hard Copy. I am Terry Ikumi. The Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, has been on strike for about 8 months now in protest against, among other things, the federal government's integrated payroll and personnel information system, and has instead proposed UTAS, that is the University Transparent and Accountability Solution, as an alternative salary payment system, which the government says is not ready and cannot be trusted, at least not yet. Well, the Minister of Labor and Employment, Chris Ngige, says the integrity test being conducted on the UTAS software will take between 6 and 8 months to be completed. But beyond the IPPIS UTAS tussle, there are other demands by ASU. The government says it has agreed to pay 30 billion naira earned academic allowances, 20 billion naira for revitalization of the education sector, and arrears of salaries to the university teachers. The preponderance of strikes in the education sector is very disturbing and dangerous for the country. So how can the government and ASU address the situation once and for all so that we no longer have strikes? And it's possible because we see this in other climes. Many families cannot afford private schools, and for students, it's becoming disheartening to see someone whom you got into school before or started together finish before you. Well, let's speak with the ASU president, Professor Biodun Ogunyemi. Prof, welcome to Hard Copy. Thank you so much for coming again.
Thank you, Terry.
I think it's interesting that we had this conversation about over an hour, a year ago.
Yes, about 2
and
years
we're still
ago.
at it again.
2018.
ASU strike, 2018.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, that's something. All right, very well then. So the government says it has agreed to pay 30 billion naira in academic allowances, 20 billion naira for the revitalization of the education sector, and then the arrears of salaries to the university teachers. I don't know if that's been communicated with you or to you, or if you're aware. Has that been met?
Well, nothing has happened beyond those promises. But those promises themselves are not clear and they are not adequate. The first place, talk about revitalization. The union demanded for a tranche of 220 billion, which is a carryover from what we had in 2013 as a memorandum of understanding. We signed that MOU with the government of Goodluck Jonathan. So by 2019, we're expecting government to release the next tranche, which is 220. And then government played game. They said, well, okay, give us time. Let us see how the suggestions you gave us, the suggested stamp duty, review of VAT, and a few other suggestions. Government has since activated many of these sources, and they are already making money. But each time we remind them, they keep telling us where the economy is bad, and coupled with the fact that we had COVID-19 experience recently. So government has been, dodging all these conversations. But this time around, we now told them, you can't still be talking about 20 billion when you have activated the sources that we suggested. You are already collecting VAT, you are collecting stamp duty, and you are collecting some other funds. So don't just be talking about the crash in the crude oil prices. That would no longer be an excuse.
But you know that some would argue that the education sector, as important as it is not the only sector that requires attention. You're talking about the revenue generation from different sources, but arguments have also come in that have said that this country has gone into a recession in the past 4 years, and there's another one looming, most likely at the end of the year or in early next year. Does that add up? Does that make sense on the part of government on why it's not being able to deliver the expected tranches?
Well, the argument has always been put to us, but we asked them since 2015, what have you done? What have you done to assure us that that memorandum of understanding has not been repudiated? And beyond the argument about a recession, we actually see education, investment in education, as not spending. We see investment in education as what will lead us out of recession. You see, all these funds they take out in education tourism, we could actually reverse the trend such that our students will remain here. We won't have to spend our scarce foreign currencies in sponsoring the children of the elite class outside this country. That is the reverse trend that we have been asking for, which has not happened here. Time was when students from other African countries were coming to Nigeria to seek higher education. If we fix our higher education will become income earners, just as we have in crude oil. When government now started to talk of recession, COVID-19 and the rest of them, we said, okay, this time around it's not about saying 20 billion to reassure universities that you have not dumped the 2013 MOU. Give 50% of the next tranche. The next tranche has been pending since 2014. You get the first tranche 2013. For the 5 subsequent tranches or 5 subsequent years, you have to give a tranche each of 220 billion. Now, if you say you are giving 20 billion, how do we place that? What percentage of one tranche is it? Give 50% as a sign of commitment. And we keep saying that where there is will, there is way. During the COVID-19 lockdown, we kept reminding government that you have 2 emergencies on your hands. The COVID-19 emergency and the emergency in the education sector. We were saying that guidedly because we knew we would come back to it by the time the lockdown will be over. Now we're out of the lockdown and the crisis is here with us. If government makes up its mind to raise this money, government can raise it. As we speak in Nigeria today, government has their cash cows. Their cash cows. That's where they draw money. That's where they draw funds. That's where politicians make their money for elections. And that is what we are telling them, that if government prioritizes education, they can raise this 110 billion.
Now, from your submission, it would seem that the IPPIS issue isn't the major issue for you, or is it?
No, IPPIS came into it as a distraction.
But it would seem from the public space, from what we see or hear in the public space, that IPPIS has taken the front seat in this whole conversation. So I think we should talk about that and how important it is to calling off the strike. The government has said that the UTAS that the ASU is proposing is unsafe. It will take a long time to be ready, and it doesn't seem like that's going to happen anytime soon. In fact, the Minister of Labor and Productivity, Chris Ngige, says that the software is available, but there's no hardware to back it up. He goes further to say that if the software passes the integrity test being conducted by NITDA, that ASU does not have the finances to support the system. Is that a basis to put that aspect of the demands on hold?
Yes, I would say, in all honesty, that the Minister of Labor and Employment is being economical with the truth. In our discussions, we had reached an understanding that UTAS will be warehoused at NUC. That is the National Universities Commission. The National Universities Commission has a data center within the framework of NGREN. NGREN means Nigerian Research Network. And they have a large research center, data center, where software like this are warehoused. And we reached that understanding. We cannot understand why the Minister of Labor is just coming out to retract. But the point here is that where are we today with UTAS? Yesterday, we had this integrity test they are talking about. Over 30 experts at NITDA reviewed our software and they all applauded it. So that is where we are. And we have been saying that if government is sincere with us, if we have concerted efforts, we could put this thing behind us in a week.
But how about the funding?
The funding they're talking about. There is a framework for it at NUC.
Budgeted for?
What do you mean by budgeted for? If you have an agency that is to house software development. What new framework do you need for
but
it?
have you found out if, because the truth is, as far as government is concerned, budgeting is a process that must be followed. And spending must be in line with the budgeting process. And the insistence is there is no budget for that. Have you followed up on that to find out how the financing of this UTAS system will work?
As we are talking, that's what I mean by concerted efforts. As we are talking now, we still have aspects of this our discussion that we're handling with NUC, and specifically the issue of mainstreaming the end academic allowances into the 2021 budget. The discussion is going on. When I say concerted efforts, I mean all expected to make inputs should come forward with the right inputs, and in a matter of weeks before the 2021 budget is approved, whatever is needed in terms of funding support for UTAS, we can achieve. We are saying that because that will put a stop to what we are spending on IPPIS. IPPIS was not designed for universities, and that is why even those who subscribed to it earlier are withdrawing their support for it.
I think it would be nice if you will speak in layman terms now.
Yes.
The IPPIS has been a point of argument here and there. ASU has rejected it. You just said it was not designed for the university system. Could you explain that bit for us?
Yes, I will explain it with from three perspectives. In the first place, IPPIS is configured in a way that any negotiated agreements, and our agreements are always negotiated through collective bargaining, that is not put on the platform of National Salaries, Income and Wages Commission will not be recognized. And that is why, as we speak today, allowances for responsibilities in the universities, heads of department, deans, directors, they are not captured. Again, IPPIS does not make provision for short-term employment frameworks. How do I mean? Universities operate flexible payroll system. You could have lecturers that will come for 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, and so on. You could also have contractors in scarce areas, people who are retired, but you need them to develop younger ones. IPPIS does not have space for that. IPPIS only recognizes workers who are on pensionable appointments. All over the world, that is allowed. You even find that some universities abroad, they will list people like Soyinka, Achebe, who are here in Nigeria, but who are on their payroll there, because they need the names to project the image of their universities. As we speak now, there are some scholars in diaspora that we need around us to give international flavors to what we are doing in our campuses. There are new programs that are coming up. You need them to come and, help you develop them, help you to start them. And they may be here for 6 months, for 1 year. How do you pay them? With TSA, you have captured all income sources. Now IPPIS is coming to say we don't recognize anybody who is not on pensionable appointments. And there's this noise that I've been making about lecturers working in 2 or more places. It is just a cheap blackmail. It is cheap blackmail because most universities now, they have regulations that will not permit you to work in more than 2 universities. And before you can go to any other university apart from yours, you must get clearance with your own university where you are based. So with that, the issue of roving lecturers will not be there. And in our own development of UTAS, we took all this into account.
All right, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching Hard Copy with Professor Biodun Ogunyemi, the ASUU president. The conversation is on the strike action embarked upon by the union for about 8 months now, how the issue of strikes in the education sector can be permanently dealt with, and how improvements can be made in the education sector. There have been commendations for the federal government as well regarding the IPPIS, saying that it has helped to weed out ghost workers, which it claims that will also apply to the university system. Does that not make sense?
Well, who are ghost workers in the universities? If there are ghost workers in the universities at all, that must be with the connivance of the vice chancellors. But we assure you that some of the steps they took in the past looking for ghost workers, they only created what I would call artificial scandals that were not founded. Because, you see, you moved into a university, you stopped payment for external lecturers, you stopped payment for lecturers whose appointments were not confirmed, and so on and so forth, and you now went to town to say you have saved X million of nairas from a university. But by the time we now looked into our records, we challenged them. And that was the origin of what we call shortfalls in the universities. Some 3 years back, we were agitating against shortfalls in the salary structures. I mean, the salary payments in the universities. And we had to fight that battle separately. We are saying that in order to avoid that, we need a payroll system that is sensitive to the flexibility and unique operations of the universities.
Does UTAS address ghost workers?
Sure. Let me explain how it does. UTAS is a system-wide application in the university system such that operations on it will start from departments and units. You capture all courses being taught by an individual. You capture lecturer's profile, area of specialization, and so on and so forth. So in other words, there is nobody that will be paid in a department or unit that the head of department or head of unit will not know about. Because that is where you upload the names. And as you are entering those data, you are being registered as the person that carried out that assignment. So we start from the bottom. By the time you get to the top, there will always be a reversal review. And by the time the person empowered to do that or entrusted to do that goes back with that operation, they can easily identify whoever tinkered with the process unlawfully along the line.
We're almost out of time now, but in developing the education sector, you had talked about preventing the children of the elites from traveling outside for education. Would you support a bill that prohibits the public officers and lecturers from sending their children outside the country for education, tertiary education?
It is something we can debate. If we say workers in public service, that may be too much, but we can say elected officials. If we have elected government officials, that they should lead by example by sending their children and wards to Nigerian educational institutions, we will see the change we are looking for.
How about lecturers?
It is not, lecturers are actually the main culprits here. Lecturers are forced to embrace that. Let me give you
I understand. Let me just tell you why I asked that question.
Yes.
I mean, imagine if your child was studying outside and other children in Nigeria, other students in Nigeria can't go to school because ASUU is on strike. How do you explain that?
No, but my children are here.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that as a lecturer.
The truth is that if government creates the environment that will make that not to happen, there will be no need for it. It is because we have not adopted education as public good that we are having this problem.
So I'm guessing that you will not support a bill that prohibits lecturers from sending their children outside.
It's not about lecturers. It's about elected officials. Elected officials have been invested with our trust. We have social contract with them, And they break our social contract from time to time.
So
if you make the situation difficult for me, it's just like telling me now that I should not send my children to private primary schools. When you have made public primary schools, public secondary schools to collapse.
Tertiary institutions at this stage now. And speaking
you have to take it holistically. Where are the public primary, public secondary schools?
You do understand that the rot in the tertiary institutions is totally sometimes beyond government. For example, we have allegations of lecturers demanding sex for money or money for sex for grades or money for grades. And that's part of the rot in the system. The average Nigerian.
But did you bother to find out how we are handling that?
But that's why there's an anti-rape bill now, which you spoke about, and which brings me to the question. If you've taken your time now to go through the anti-rape bill as sponsored by the Deputy President of the Senate, your initial position was that that was targeted at lecturers and you did not support it. But considering the kind of reactions that have trailed your comment on that and your position, ASU's position on that, do you still stand by that?
I think you should put my response and the response of ASU in proper context. Our position is, do not say lecturers in tertiary institutions. And especially when they say lecturers in tertiary institutions, they're already stigmatizing us. We are saying, talk of workplaces. Workplaces, tertiary institutions are part of workplaces. There are sexual harassment cases in National Assembly. Are we going to formulate separate laws for them? There are sexual harassment cases in police barracks. Are we going to create separate laws for them? We are saying that let us address issues holistically and not stigmatize a group. And we had put this, properly across to them that even the law, the Constitution frowns against making laws that are targeted at, particular individuals. So the scope of that bill is too narrow, and that is our problem with it. We are not against any move to curb harassment. We don't support harassment. And at the level of the union, we have a mechanism in place through which we monitor and we punish any untoward behavior in the system that violates the ethics of our professional calling.
I think the argument on that one is that it hasn't really lived up to its expectation.
Then we farm it up. We farm it up.
How do you do that?
No, we farm it up because we can put more structures.
Is ASU oblivious of that aspect of it, that it's not really been living up to expectation?
No, it depends on who is defining that. Because when we talk of farming it up, have we empowered the potential victims to be able to report? Like we know.
I should be asking ASU. I mean, you say that there is a structure in place to check that. So
yes, I was going to tell you. I was going to tell you.
Go ahead.
I was going to tell you when we started to hear about this anti-ASU campaign with respect to rape and
is that what you think it is?
No, people came out. They ganged up against
campaign.
Yes, people came up and ganged up against us, and we started telling them that we have put in place structures that will help address this. For instance, there's no university campus now where you have ASU and you don't have gender committee. The gender committee is to relate with our students, particularly the female ones, and to encourage them. We have parent substitutes for them, male, female, that they can confide in on such cases. We have suggestion boxes where they can even do anonymous letters. Just mention the person. We will do our intelligence and we'll get at the problem. And 2-3 cases we have handled.
Okay, very well then. Professor Biodun Ogunyemi, thank you so much for finding time to come speak with us.
You are most
on
welcome.
Hard Copy.
It's my pleasure.
I'm hoping that the next time we have this conversation, we would not be talking about strikes.
We hope to.
We hope to.
And we hope Nigerian government will do the correct thing.
Thank you so much.
To fix Nigeria and to fix Nigerian education.
Thank you very much for coming on.
It's my pleasure.
Well, that's all the time we have. Thanks for watching. For more information, go to channelstv.com. You can also find our podcasts on hard copy there as well. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Terry Ikumi. Goodbye.